Between 2021 and 2025, Texas constructed 65 miles of state-funded border wall along the U.S.-Mexico border, one of the largest independent security efforts by any state in recent history. But in June 2025, the state officially paused all new construction, opting to shift its focus to patrol operations, surveillance technology, and National Guard deployments. So what led to this change in strategy? What did Texas accomplish during the 4-year build-out? And how does this fit into the broader federal approach under the new Republican administration? In this report, we examine how border enforcement is evolving at both the state and federal levels, and what it means as the 2026 election cycle approaches. If you believe securing the border isn't optional and want real updates based on facts, not opinions, hit that subscribe button now. Let's dive in. In January 2021, the federal government under President Joe Biden officially paused all remaining construction on the U.S.-Mexico border wall, a project that had been a central component of border security policy during the Trump administration. The federal decision marked a turning point. Crews stopped work, contracts were canceled or suspended, and large portions of the planned barrier were left incomplete. In response, the state of Texas took an unprecedented step. Governor Greg Abbott announced that Texas would fund and manage its own wall construction program, independently of Washington. The effort would be state-directed, using taxpayer dollars from Texas's general revenue and additional funds raised through private donations. The original federal wall project, launched under President Donald Trump in 2017, aimed to build several hundred miles of new border barrier across multiple southwestern states. While significant progress was made in areas like Arizona and New Mexico, several planned segments in Texas were never completed. Following the change in federal leadership, many of those plans were either shelved or abandoned entirely. Texas officials framed their move as a response to what they described as a gap in enforcement along high-risk portions of the border, particularly in regions of South Texas where illegal crossings, narcotics trafficking, and transnational cartel activity had reportedly increased. The state identified specific sectors near the Rio Grande Valley and Del Rio as priority zones. Between 2021 and mid-2025, the Texas program committed over $3.4 billion in funding. But despite the scale of the investment, the construction effort proved slow and costly. Land acquisition proved especially difficult, with many property owners declining to sell, triggering lengthy legal battles. In some areas, construction costs exceeded $25 million per mile due to legal, logistical, and environmental constraints. By June 2025, Texas had completed around 65 miles of new wall, far short of its initial goals. Still, state officials viewed the effort as a necessary intervention at a time when federal enforcement had slowed. While limited in scope, the Texas Wall Project became a symbol of state-level initiative and policy divergence from federal priorities. Although limited in total mileage, the completed segments of the Texas-funded border wall quickly came to represent more than just a physical barrier. For many supporters, it became a symbol of the state's willingness to take independent action on border security when federal efforts slowed or stalled. However, in June 2025, the state government made a policy announcement that marked a major shift in strategy. On June 17th, officials confirmed that Texas would no longer allocate new funding toward continued wall construction. The program, once positioned as a flagship initiative of state-level border enforcement, was officially placed on pause. No new sections were planned, no new contracts were to be issued, and ongoing projects would conclude once current obligations were fulfilled. According to state officials, the decision was not an abandonment of border enforcement, but rather a change in operational focus. Remaining funds from the multi-billion-dollar initiative would be redirected toward more mobile and immediate enforcement efforts. This included expanding ground patrols, increasing the presence of the Department of Public Safety, DPS, and deploying additional units of the Texas National Guard along high-priority sections of the border. Texas leadership characterized the move as a practical adjustment to the evolving challenges at the border. While static barriers had shown value in controlling movement through specific corridors, officials argued that flexible enforcement, particularly involving trained personnel and real-time surveillance, would offer broader coverage and quicker response capability. In their view, physical barriers had limitations. They could be bypassed, breached, or rendered ineffective without sufficient manpower. In contrast, patrol units and rapid response teams could engage with evolving threats more dynamically. While the shift disappointed some of the project's strongest supporters, it was framed by state officials as a strategic recalibration, one aimed at producing faster, more visible results in the lead-up to the 2026 election cycle. At first glance, Texas pausing its border wall construction may seem like a step backward, but when you look closely at the scale, cost, and timeline of the project, the reasons behind the shift become more apparent. By mid-2025, Texas had committed over $3.4 billion in state funds to build an independent border wall, a response to the halt in federal construction. Despite that investment, only about 65 miles of barrier had been completed over nearly 4 years. The limited progress wasn't due to a lack of effort. It was the result of logistical and legal challenges. In some regions, building the wall cost as much as $20 to $30 million per mile, especially where rugged terrain or private land ownership complicated the work. Numerous landowners declined to sell, triggering lawsuits and delays. Environmental regulations, permitting requirements, and labor shortages further slowed construction. Even with billions allocated, progress remained slow. Faced with these obstacles, Texas officials concluded that reallocating resources toward mobile enforcement, more patrols, manpower, and surveillance would yield faster and more visible results than continuing with physical barriers alone. Beyond the high costs and slow progress, Texas ran into another major hurdle: legal challenges. A large portion of land along the border is privately owned, and many property owners declined to sell. This led to extended court battles, some lasting years, further stalling construction and driving up expenses. Even in areas where land was secured, construction proved difficult. Rough terrain, strict environmental regulations, and labor shortages turned each mile of wall into a slow, expensive undertaking. In fact, in some locations, the cost of construction reached $20 to $30 million per mile. And despite that investment, gaps still remained, leaving key stretches of the border unsecured. By contrast, mobile patrols, drones, and surveillance checkpoints could be deployed faster and at lower cost, while also covering broader areas. With the 2026 elections approaching, state leaders were under pressure to deliver visible results. Shifting to boots on the ground offered a more immediate deterrent, one that voters could see in real time. Rather than commit another $1 billion to a few dozen miles of steel, Texas opted for a tactical change, not abandoning the mission, but adapting the approach to get results faster and more efficiently. With construction now paused, Texas is shifting its focus from building barriers to active border enforcement. Resources are being redirected toward manpower and technology, including more DPS officers, National Guard deployments, drones, and surveillance towers. The aim is faster, more flexible coverage. State officials say mobile enforcement offers better real-time response than fixed walls. While Texas halts new wall segments, federal efforts under the current administration are continuing in select areas, particularly in Arizona, where new construction has been approved based on local conditions and feasibility. So what's the takeaway? Texas isn't stepping away from the border, it's adjusting its strategy. With wall construction on hold, the focus now shifts to speed, mobility, and real-time enforcement on the ground. What's your perspective? Do you think shifting funds from construction to patrols was the right move? Or should physical barriers have remained the priority? Let us know in the comments. We're interested in hearing your view. And if you haven't already, make sure to check out this video. It covers the recent uptick in deportation operations nationwide. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates on border security and enforcement news.